What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another Pay-Per-Viewpoint edition of the Smark Moment Smack Talk podcast. It's time for us to break down WWE Worlds Collide 2020, otherwise known as NXT versus NXT UK, which just ended a few minutes ago. We're going to give our first impressions and our overall thoughts on all the matches that took place, everything else that happened in between, give the results, any kind of recap stuff we want to talk about in this post-show the way that we normally do. I'm your host, as always, Tony Mango, and joining me, as always, are Robert DeFelice.
Hello.
And Callum Wiggins.
Good evening.
Good morning, everybody. We are... you're probably listening to this in the morning. It's already around 10 o'clock or so, but hey, who knows?
They're just waiting. They're waiting on tenterhooks. They're gonna stay awake all night for this to come out.
Yeah, they're gonna just listen to this in the morning, but it's not going to be the next morning. It's going to be June 8th or something. Maybe so. I don't know. Every once in a while I'll get a comment from somebody leaving a comment on some 2014 match or something, and they're just gonna well, that's not what happened for the predictions, and it's well, now we know because it's a couple years old.
Thank you for taking some time out of your busy Christmas day to join us for this edition.
Yeah, obviously, if you are listening at any point, you should be dropping a comment below. Tell us your thoughts on what just happened or what happened 19 years ago, whatever it is. I don't know. By going to the YouTube channel, you can leave a comment there. You can't pretty much elsewhere other than smarkmoma.com. But if you are on YouTube right now, then you should hit that subscribe button if you haven't done that already. Ring that little bell for the notifications and like the video as long as you like it. If you don't like it, then hey, don't dislike it. But all that stuff's greatly appreciated, as well as your comments. So keep the discussion going. But we're going to talk about all the things that we're going to run down here, and obviously spoilers if you have not seen it. You should not be listening to a review of something if you haven't seen it. You don't want to know what happens, but sometimes people do that, and I don't quite understand why. We started things off with the pre-show, which was the Kaylee Ray versus Mia Yim match, not for the title. It didn't matter anyway, again, because Kaylee Ray won by pinfall. I kind of mentioned this before about the idea of, well, if they're adding a match on the pre-show and it's a champion thing, and if she ends up winning, then it doesn't need to have been a non-title match, but, that doesn't stop them in the past. It's just pure logic, but who cares? Not bad. It wasn't anything that was really all that super impressive, but I don't really have any complaints about it. It's just a match. Sometimes just a match is fine. How'd you guys feel about it?
I agree. Just a match is fine. It's fine, as you said. So, it was good.
Yeah, it was just a decent match. I thought some of the striking exchanges were a little off between the two of them, but other than that, it was totally fine. They stole a couple of their moves to try and add a bit of colour to it, and then you have Kaylee Ray, the heel, grabbing the ropes for the victory. So, yeah, I think it just served its purpose.
Yeah, no, too much to break down there. Which I guess that's good, not to have too much bad to say about it. So
we did see our first. We saw our first of about 50 Canadian destroyers in this match, though. So that was something. Got the trend started.
I think if you counted the Canadian destroyers and chops throughout the night, it might be a record for the amount of times that either of those are done per show. Lots of people doing chops, not even in the Walter match. I don't know if that's just something in the air that people were Walter's going to do lots of chops. I know, I'll do a chop and that kind of thing. But yeah, Canadian Destroyer here, was there one in every match? I know there was at least two other ones.
There was, I think there was one in this match. There was one in the Cruiserweight Championship match, and I assume there would have been one in the main event. But I don't know whether Cole hit the Panama I can't remember if Cole hit the Panama Sunrise or not. I know he went for it at the very least.
The Canadian Destroyer is one of those moves that I've stopped taking account of. It's just, it occurs so much from everybody so randomly that it's just it's basically like a chop to me.
Like a DDT?
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah.
I assume on some indie shows it replaces the headlock as the way to start the match.
Yeah, exactly.
Just go straight into the Canadian Destroyer.
And then immediately start chanting, "This is awesome."
Yeah.
And FP dub or whatever, random assortment of acronym letters that the promotion's a part of. Yeah, that's pre-show. Not really much else to talk about there. We started off the actual card itself with Finn Balor versus Ilja Dragunov. Very good match, kind of similar to Dragunov's match with Cesaro from TakeOver Cardiff, I think it was, where it was basically that Draganov held his own throughout the whole thing, and he came up short at the end, but he ended up looking pretty good in the process of doing that. I don't really know much to say about this other than that I liked it. Again, there's no standout moments that I can really pinpoint as being like, that was extremely memorable. It was just really good.
Well, it's amazing. You put two guys in a ring, they know how to wrestle, and they do a wrestle, and they do a good one, and it's good.
Here, you two, do a wrestle.
Yeah, it was a very good opening match for the main card. I thought the biggest issue with it was the fact that the crowd was so into Finn Balor, and Balor was positioned to play the heel for the entirety of the match. And as soon as Dragunov started making his comeback spots and all that aspect of it, the crowd were just booing him out of the building because I'm pretty sure, not 90%, but a good 75% of the crowd had no idea who this guy was coming out. Just that he represented NXT UK and was Russian, and so they hated him. So, and then, Balor's well known, he's well established, and even though he's been playing a heel on NXT TV, he's the biggest star, and so they wanted him to win, and he duly did. So yeah, it was the right winner. It was a good performance by both guys. I just feel like they should probably, seeing the writing on the wall and seeing how Balor was being positioned, they probably should have pivoted and had Dragunov play the heel in the match instead.
Yeah. Finn Balor challenged Brock Lesnar last year. So even though he's shifted gears completely, it's not like this Houston crowd is going to be like, oh, fuck yeah, Draganov. Like, this was a Finn Balor pro crowd, and they got what they wanted.
I mean, even when you look at the NXT audience, a lot of people that watch NXT still don't watch NXT UK. So the fact that this was in Houston, instead of being in an environment where the NXT UK people thrive a little bit more, I think that also put NXT UK at a disadvantage just out of the gate. Like, Draganov versus Balor in any arena, Balor's more well-known, so he probably would have had a little bit of an edge, but if you make that in, I don't know, like in Blackpool, it might be a little bit more even of a contest. You put it in Houston, some of these people probably don't even have a clue that Dragunov was a guy, I would hope that they would if they bought a ticket for there, but then again, some people are just casual, and, they might not even know the NXT people, let alone the NXT UK guys.
I would be quite interested to see what the actual attendance figures are when this was released, and obviously we'll probably have to extrapolate that down by a couple of thousand. But it just feels like this show, because of the lack of build towards it and everything like that, will probably have quite a low attendance figure. Even though the crowd was like hot all night, so I can't really blame them too much. Like they made the atmosphere sound like it was a lot of people in the building, but I presume that there probably wasn't that many in there.
Yeah, it's really dark, so you couldn't really tell either, too. And
yeah, I think that was probably by design.
Yeah. Then we moved on to Kathy Kelly interviewing both grizzled young veterans and the Cruiserweights ringside. They had the information that we pretty much had expected ahead of time, which was that the winning team of the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic will indeed get a tag team title shot at TakeOver Portland. And grizzled young veterans, of course, are talking about how this is their time and all this other kind of stuff, and they're better, and, they need the credit where they deserve and all that stuff. You pivot over to the Cruiserweights, and this is something that they did on NXT this week, and I'm really liking that they're continuing this, which is playing into the idea that Matt Riddle's total pothead. And last week, it was something about like a joint attack or something like that, and he said something like, I heard you say something about a joint, and then I just sort of lost track of what you were saying. And
it was Zach Gibson calling their tag team joint manipulation.
Joint manipulation, yeah, that's right. This time around, Pete Dunne says, "I'll just be blunt," and Matt Riddle's face lights up. And then he says, he's gonna smoke the two of you and all that. And I'm really digging this whole idea of
so everything they should have done with RVD like 20 years ago.
But... Yeah, why not? Everybody knows it. It's pretty obvious when you look at Matt Riddle and you hear him say anything at all. So just turn into the skid. It's fun. I'm actually digging the Pete Dunne and Matt Riddle team a lot more than I thought that I would. And of course, I'm expecting them to win that match and to go on to take over and to lose, but I think that this has been quite a bit of fun lately. So all thumbs up when it comes to me.
Oh yeah, they're a great tag team. Love everything about their character work together. Having Matt Riddle as the pothead and someone who's there for a laugh and have a good time, and Pete Dunne is very serious, very like just very laser focused on just winning and stuff like that. But it's not like it's an odd couple tag team, but it's not odd couple in the way that one is clear. They clearly don't dislike each other, but they're forced to team together. They like each other, but they can be more disparate from each other. So it really works well. I really dig their dynamic.
Quick plug, just because why not? If you are very much on the pro marijuana side and you want to make a little reference to a Mojo Rawley, there's a T-shirt design that's up on Smark Out Moments, Redbubble, and T Public shops of "I don't get high, I am high," and plenty of other designs and stuff. So yeah, if you want to pick up any merchandise, browse to those sites. Browse the same for Fanboys Anonymous and a Mango Tees. Let's move over to the NXT Championship, the Cruiserweight Championship Fatal 4-Way match, or as Johnny Saint would say, the 4-man Fatal match between Angel Garza going on as champion against Isaiah Swerve Scott, Jordan Devlin, and Travis Banks. Hell of a match, one of my favorites of the night, and incredibly shocked by the ending. Jordan Devlin ends up winning by pinning Isaiah Swerve Scott. And going into this, I thought that this was pretty much a guarantee that Garza would not only retain, but that he wouldn't pin Scott because they would want to keep him strong. Lo and behold, Scott's the one that takes the pin, and it's not even Angel Garza who retains. So definitely took me by surprise. And I'm not entirely sure where they're going to go from here, but maybe that's a good thing. Sometimes a little bit of predictability is fine if you can see like the path ahead and then ends up being like a really good one. Sometimes a little bit of unpredictability makes it that much more interesting. So I'm cool with Jordan Devlin being champion. I liked Angel Garza as champion. I would have been cool with him sticking around too. And the match itself, just really good. So even though I would have preferred Garza retaining, I liked all this.
Yeah. I thought this was a really good match. Very surprising finish. I thought it was going to change, but I thought it would go to Swerve Scott. But with Devlin getting it, does this mean Devlin moves? Or do they try to incorporate kind of like a merger of all three of the, NXT, NXT UK, 205 Live? I'm very curious to see what happens here.
Yeah, this was a great match. There was a lot of high flying, a lot of intricate spots, like all four guys putting moves against each other and all going down at one point, so the crowd can do the "This is awesome" chants, as there was plenty of them. Second Canadian Destroyer of the night when Banks blocked a Saito suplex and just went into the Canadian Destroyer, which was a cool spot. It's a good way to do it. But yeah, I was, again, like you guys, just shocked by the finish of it. I was shocked because it looked like, when I first watched it, that it had been a mistake.
Mm-hmm, I thought so too.
Because Garza's diving in, and so I just assume, Garza's trying to get the pinfall, so the referee's going to stop his count because he's not reaching there in time. But no, he just counted the 3, and I thought, they've changed the result on the fly, essentially. Like, they've just given, because the referees in WWE more typically are told to call it like a shoot. And so he's just done that, and then...
That'd be really cool, though, right? Like, if, hey, listen, bud, you missed your cue, I'm not going to look stupid. So we'll figure this out as we go. I actually would really enjoy that.
Yeah, I think WWE has that as kind of like a mantra in the sense that they don't try to impinge on the credibility of their referees. So it's just that if your shoulders stay down or for whatever reason, the referee will continue to make his count, and so they'll just change the result essentially. But when I saw the replay, it was pretty obvious that was the actual finish. That Devlin was definitely pressing down on it. Scott was making no efforts to try and get his shoulder up at the very last second if he thought that Garza was missing out, and Garza was deliberately not getting to there to break it up. But yeah, I thought it was a great match. It's a shocking result, but Devlin's been killing it recently, and so I'm happy that he's the Cruiserweight champion now. I assume it will end up leading to a match between him and Garza at Portland at the very least.
I don't know. I mean, I could see them doing that, but I could also see them just ignoring it and kind of having this play out on NXT television over the course of the next couple of months or so. Or, I mean, it can't do it on NXT UK because the spoilers are out for the next bunch of tapings, and Jordan Devlin already did the one and only thing that he had done there, so it's not like this is like an obvious path for Travis Banks becomes the next challenger or anything like that. So it's kind of, I think it's going to be more on the NXT side of things, and maybe they do it for Takeover, or I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of tough.
I think they would be missing a trick if they didn't do it, because Garza was clearly the most popular guy in this match. It's another thing where NXT, and this has been like throughout their run, but even more so recently, that a lot of their heels are significantly more popular than their baby faces. In that you've got the Undisputed Era, who are probably the most overacting the entire company. You've got Angel Garza, you've got Finn Balor, who is over in certain matches and situations. You have Io Shirai, who's probably cheered more than most of the babyface women on the roster. So they're having to, I think they'll probably use this as an opportunity to transition Garza into a babyface role by keeping Devlin in the heel slot. But I thought it was quite interesting that it was Scott who was the one who was left standing in the ring, like watching Devlin go away after he cut his promo and carrying the title away. So it might be Scott is the one who they eventually choose to take the title off of him, but I think Garza should at least get a match first.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not like it's the end of the world, but you would think that if Scott was the one that they were going to go with for the next challenger, that it would have been Banks that would have taken the in. So that way Scott could have been like, keep a little bit of mystique of, well, can he actually pin Scott? But then again, it's not the end of the world. Like I said, it's not like somebody was going to go, well, they can't possibly ever have a match together because he pinned him. It's Fatal 4-Way. Things happen. I was surprised at how well Banks was booked, though. I did expect him to be the weak link, and he ended up having a good amount of time where he was the focal point.
Banks is a great wrestler.
He's fun.
He just lacks a bit of charisma and personality. He's not as larger than life than a lot of the other guys in the match were. Yeah,
but he was the glue of this match, and all four guys did a hell of a job. So this was a very, very good match. Maybe whatever to a different type of match. DIY against Moustache Mountain, and this was quirky, but in such a fun way. They clearly had a lot of fun. It's obvious that they sat down ahead of time and they planned out how to like mess with their tropes and sort of, well, how can we get this, I'm blanking on the name of the fist bop or something. And why am I
Bop and Bang?
Bop and Bang.
Bop and Bang,
yeah. So like, how can we get a fun spot going on with them, and how can we do, this little reference and that little thing and all that stuff. And the first little bit of this I thought was actually even probably my favorite part of the whole match, before they were even really getting into the match, when they were just sort of messing around with each other. And, Bate catches Gargano's foot, puts it down, they shake their hands, they do all that kind of stuff. Like, Ciampa shows up Trent Seven when it comes to flexing his muscles. Like, there are lots of different moments that I thought were funny little things. But then, of course, the action goes underway, and they end up having a hell of a match, too. So, I like this a hell of a lot. DIY wins by pinfall, for anybody interested in the flat-out results.
This was so fucking good. Like, I love tag team wrestling, and this is probably the best example we'll get of it all year. I loved it.
Yeah, I think this is probably the match. I think this is the match that I have the least amount of notes for, because I was just sitting down and actually just watching it as intently as I possibly could. I didn't want to move from my screen at all away for a second, because these teams just work so flawlessly together, even though this is probably the first time they've ever met, and it's also the first time the DIY have teamed together in several months at the very least, maybe even a year at this point. And yeah, it was just completely like they hadn't missed a day as a tag team. They were great. Mustache Mountain were great. There was some humorous spots and good chain wrestling at the start of it, and then you start getting into the hard-hitting action. I like the fact that it was Ciampa who was the one that really started the striking exchange with people, because he's still an arsehole, like deep down in his character. So that made a lot of sense for him. And yeah, just all of the spots came from like the hot tags, and like from that point on, it just ramped up and up and up. And I think the most interesting aspect of it was a lot of the ways that DIY got the advantage of it was having either Trent Seven or Tyler Bate hit the other one, like basically just avoid their moves and have Bate land his corkscrew splash onto Seven, or Seven slaps Bate in the face instead by accident.
That was cool.
Yeah, I just think that's quite interesting, that because they're the more recent tag team, or at least the team that's been more together more recently, that they were the ones that were making errors, whereas DIY were functioning as a well-oiled machine. So maybe there's some storyline potential for that down the line, or maybe it was just like a one-off thing and a way to just make this match a bit more fun and exciting. Either way, it worked and it was a great match, so definitely not going to complain about it. Really, really excellent tag team wrestling.
Seven and Bate haven't had a match together for NXT UK, have they?
Not in a while. Probably not since a couple of weeks or months after the final of the NXT UK tag team tournament.
I mean, like against each other.
Oh, they never faced each other. No,
I didn't think
not
that they
NXT
did.
either. No, so
double check about that real quick.
I think that's a match that should happen down the line.
Okay, so it looks like they might have. February 15th, 2017, WWE has a thing on there. So that must have happened part of the tournament.
Yeah, I
Maybe.
imagine if they had faced each other, then it would have been in the first part of the tournament. Maybe they did do like a master and student type thing, but I wouldn't be upset if they revisited that match. There's definitely been a long enough gap, and people probably don't remember their first meeting, so it would be fine for them to do it again.
Double checking this now, because now I'm really curious if this is something that's just labeled wrong or anything, but I don't think that... Yeah, okay, so it seems like he might have been champion at the time.
Oh, right, maybe...
Tyler Bate versus Trent Seven for the championship. Huh.
Oh, yeah, I'd imagine that, yeah, he could have actually given him an opportunity for it, just as like, I'm the champion now and you're my mentor, so I'll give you an opportunity for it.
Yeah, I'd be able to see a match between those two. Be something different.
Yeah.
Let's see. We had then Mercedes Martinez is in the crowd, Dakota Kai is in the crowd, and out of nowhere she gets attacked by Tegan Nox, which was very cool. Another thing I didn't see coming. And this is good continuity for them to kind of keep that going and just to get people talking. Big fan of that.
Yeah, good attack, spear through the barricade. They looked quite vicious, getting them separated by security. I think they're having that match this week, aren't they?
I don't know if that's a...
I'm pretty sure that's booked for... I think that's
they're
booked
having
for
it Wednesday, and then I don't think that it ends there, or that it even gets going on Wednesday, and then they'll fight at the TakeOver.
You'd imagine so. I assume they'd have some sort of like the match either kind of starts or they just go at each other really quickly, and so they call it off and they give them some sort of stipulation match at the pay-per-view.
Yay or nay, Mercedes Martinez in the Rumble?
Nay.
I mean, there's a good 25 slots to fill, so I guess there's every opportunity. Yeah, I'd say she might get an opportunity in that.
I'm going to say yay as well.
I think we're down to like 20 left to fill. They add a couple more people.
I think they only added 3 more, so I think there's like 7 confirmed names.
That's ridiculous. Let's see what we moved on to. Actually, let's move on to a quick plug. Patreon.com/SmarkoutMoment. If you want us to do more things of anything in particular, then toss a couple bucks our way. There's the Pick Your Poison tier where you can specifically donate something. Not donate. You can. I'm all over the place today. Tired. Specifically request some kind of a gimmick or something like that. But if that's too steep of a price and you want to be a part of some extra stuff on top of that, and for a cheaper rate, there is the Darkcast tier where you can get access to Patreon exclusive episodes. There is also just toss a buck, toss $5, ad block forgiveness. All that stuff's greatly appreciated. So if you do want to help support Smark Out Moment grow in the future, Patreon is a great way of doing that. The same thing for fanboysanonymous.com, my geek culture website where I do movie reviews and other kind of content like that. So again, Patreon for that, the merchandise shops, we're just following smarkoutmoment.com and fanboysanonymous.com on all the different platforms that are out there. It's the YouTubes, the Facebooks, the Twitters, the book faces, the tweet books, whatever these kids are doing these days. You know. Let's go to Rhea Ripley versus Toni Storm. Ripley goes in as champion. Ripley leaves as champion. I was underwhelmed. I thought it was fine, but pretty much right when it started to get to where I was interested in it, it ended.
Yeah, they can't all be winners.
Yeah, this was the weakest match on the entire show for me, and I'm counting the pre-show match in that as well.
Yep.
It just never really got going. Like, there was some good submission stuff early on, and there was a few like striking exchanges, but none of them looked particularly impressive. And yeah, it was finished really, really quickly as well. So the most interesting thing for the entire match for me was Nigel McGuinness referring to Rhea Ripley as a masochist at one point. So so that was the only thing that really caught my attention.
We talk about the confirmation of, okay, she's just the NXT champion.
I missed that, but how did they go about doing that?
Literally, what's her name? Alicia Taylor just said this match is for the NXT championship.
That seems so pointless because it's like you gotta at some point clarify which championship it is. If you said there's an NXT championship match on the card, you'd assume that it would be Adam Cole, you know?
Well, I understand that dilemma that some fans have, but you know how you distinguish between it? Because one of them will have women wrestling in the match.
Well, I mean,
and
if
the
you're
other one
looking
will have men wrestling.
Obviously, if you're looking at who is participating in it, it's different. But like, if you were to just say this match is for the NXT championship, who are you picturing? And you don't see anybody.
Well, I picture whoever, like, because
no, I mean, out of context,
I'll hear them say this is the NXT championship match. The only context I'll say is they show me who the champion is at that point. So I think people are getting way too like butthurt about this idea that, oh, why are they calling the NXT champion? That's so confusing. We already have an NXT champion. It's the guy. What's so wrong with the NXT Women's Championship? I think it seems like a really small thing. It seems like a really irrelevant detail, but it can actually mean a lot bigger than people actually realise. Because now it firmly establishes that Rhea Ripley and Adam Cole are on par. They are the same level. They're both NXT champion. So this idea that one of them is ahead of the other because it's a quote-unquote male-orientated business, and so it's so Adam Cole is the main event and Rhea Ripley's just slightly below it, is kind of, it's not removed immediately, but it's getting close to a way of establishing parity between it.
See, to me, I think that this is a really dumb thing, because if somebody were to say that there's a problem with it, I would say, okay, well then let's make it the men's NXT championship and the women's NXT championship.
Well, you can do it either way. You can do it either way.
Like, at that point, I think you might as well go, all right, well, the Cruiserweight championship is also the NXT championship, because we don't want to clarify that it's Cruiserweight. And then,
well, no, well, that's,
you know what I mean? Like, it's
there's a weight specification.
Yeah, there's a reason why it's called
there's a gender specification for the other one, you know? Like, I get why they specify, because
the
now,
only thing
you know what I mean?
The only thing I'll say about it. The idea that people feel like this move was necessary in order to establish equality suggests that there is something inferior about being a woman, which I don't agree with.
Right.
So that's my only takeaway. It's just odd, and I think the reason this really blew up is because it came to light not 24 hours after Becky had done that weird interview on Backstage where she was like, yeah, I think we should just remove the term women's from the division. And it seemed like, okay, NXT has immediately done this. But in the grand scheme of things, I think it's cool. I think Rhea Ripley can carry a brand just as easily as Adam Cole. I would not like to see this name change for the main roster because the Raw Championship sounds odd when you're just referring to the women. But
I just feel like in which case you should just make it so Becky Lynch becomes the WWE champion and Bayley becomes the Universal champion.
I still think that the dumb thing about that is then it just becomes, well, why couldn't it just be, if you do it that way, then you need to make it the men's Universal Championship and the Women's Universal Championship. You have to still
Fine.
say men's and women's, but they didn't do that. They took out the women's for the NXT one, so then that defeats the purpose of that because you did the opposite, kind of.
I just don't feel like it's necessary. I just don't feel it's super necessary to have the men and women's NXT Championship because it doesn't matter at the end of the day. Because one of them will be defended by a woman and one of them will be defended by a man. It's like there's no if anybody's confused by it, it's on you for being confused. It's not on them to try and dumb this down as much as possible for you.
Well, I'll put it this way.
We always talk about how WWE insults our intelligence, and now they're doing something which is a bit progressive and takes a bit more thought behind it. And everyone's like, oh, but no one will understand it because we're dumb and
No, see, I think that here's a distinction that throws everything for a loop. If you were going to tag this on Wikipedia, you can't have both be NXT Championship because you need two separate links. So you have to have some kind of distinguishing factor.
Well, it's a very specific circumstance which doesn't affect anybody's viewing of the entire product, really.
I don't know. I just think that that's kind of one of those dumb things that people are getting upset over something and they made a change for no reason. But
I think people are getting upset. People are getting upset over it because of the Tessa Blanchard situation. Because people just see this and think, oh, they're just calling NXT champion now, so that means they're going to bring in the intergender wrestling, and Rhea Ripley's going to beat Adam Cole for the NXT championship, and blah blah blah.
Oh, I'm not getting into that yet. I just think it's dumb that they did this anyway. To begin, they should. I don't think that anything should have changed. And if anything should have changed, it should have been the men's NXT championship. And I think that they did the opposite thing. And now I'm like, all right, people made a stink about something that didn't need to change, and they made it the wrong way. And it's still kind of stupid that that's the more interesting thing to talk about than the Ripley and Storm match. You know, like
it was just very, very underwhelming. Like you said, there was nothing that really happens in this match that's worth remembering or going back to. Like the only real interesting spots were the moment when Storm German suplexed her into the turnbuckle, and then when Storm missed the frog splash and Ripley just immediately hit the riptide and won, and the crowd just seemed to think, oh, is that it? That type of reaction, as opposed to, oh, good match, all that stuff.
For the future, for anybody that's wondering, I am going to refer to these titles as the NXT Women's Championship and stuff. And if you really hate it, then you've got other problems, and I don't give a shit.
and I'm going to constantly call back on him and call it the NXT Championship instead. so you can deal with that instead.
Yeah, we'll balance each other out. We'll do it that way.
Yeah. And Rob will just stand there looking pretty.
All right, which match did you like better on here, the NXT Championship or the NXT Championship match? I'm just gonna be a dick about it that way. Yeah, I'm kidding. Obviously, there wasn't an NXT Championship match. Oh wait, there was. Never mind. All right, see, it's already fucking confusing. This is stupid. All right, let's move on. Johnny Gargano attacked backstage by Finn Balor. Tyler Bate helps break up the fight. That's just a thing. I don't think anything really of it.
Oh, I think. Well,
what do you mean?
It's nothing special, but like I guess from what happened that we're going to get a Tyler Bate versus Finn Balor match on TV soon, which will be great. So thumbs up to that.
Yeah, it's a thing.
But nothing else much.
And then we had our main event, which was the 8-man, at least for a portion of it, tag team match, the Undisputed Era against the foursome of Imperium, which goes down to the threesome of Imperium because very early on, Alexander Wolf suffers an injury that was definitely a legitimate injury. Seems like Bobby Fish caught him in the throat when he was kicking him. And I don't know exactly all the details behind it.
He knocked him out. That's what they're going with.
They're going with a concussion?
Well, I don't know whether it was concussion or he kicked him in the chin. It was either I think they said in commentary like the throat, but I think he kicked him in the chin. And that just knocked him unconscious. So you could tell because the way he felt, like he wasn't like selling that he was out. He was just
out
completely, out of it. And so Bobby Fish goes into a cover, the referee's counting, and it's very obvious that Wolf's not getting his shoulders up. So if they had called it an issue in that situation, then the match would have been over in a matter of seconds with that kick. Damn. So they decided the referee made an executive decision there to just essentially stop the count, say that he kicked out and get him out of the ring as quickly as possible. I was so worried for this match at that point because this was the match that was the selling point of the entire card. And to lose one of the members of the teams within like a couple of minutes of the match starting, you'll just kind of feel like whether this event, not this event, but this match itself was just cursed almost.
Jesus, I just went back and rewatched the kick. That is not pretty. God, he knocked him cold.
Yeah, it was. I feel bad for Wolf, obviously, because he got to miss out on this match, but his health and well-being was definitely the priority here, and
right.
Everybody else that remaining in the match did a hell of a job making up for the lost man.
Yeah, they still ended up having a really good match. Best match of the night, I think, in some different ways. Some other ways, some of the other ones could be on par, if not better. And, the Fatal 4-Way had its moments that I think were a little bit better than this. But this match had a lot of moments that I think were better than anything else, too. They did a hell of a job making up for that. And I think the only main disappointment I had here was we didn't get any real good Walter chops. Nothing that stood out as better than the one from NXT this week. That one against Adam Cole was a hell of a chop. All the ones today, they just weren't as loud. So that was disappointing, but I really enjoyed the hell out of it. I liked that Imperium one at the end. I think that watching them go down one member, and then obviously that wasn't a plan, but they kind of had to fight back and become like the default baby faces, kind of. So when they became the underdogs and then they come back and they win, that was made all that much better. Really enjoyed this match. And I'm curious how much better, or if it would have been basically the same if Wolf had been involved. And, I gotta say, I think it probably would have been about the same. We just would have had Eichner and Bartel and Walter tag in Wolf a couple times, and that probably would have been all the difference,
Yeah, I thought it was really good though. These guys can't have a bad match. I feel bad for Eichner and Bartel because everybody's just like, "Fuck yeah, Walter," but they're good too,
Yeah, what was that? The chant.
It was undisputed Walter.
Yeah.
Like that's not fair to them. They deserve more.
I think the three guys from Imperium that were left in this match got a lot more fan reaction and a lot more attention than they did when they were going into this match. Obviously, Walter's already considered a big star, but I think they got a lot more respect from the crowd and a lot more admiration by the end of it than they had going into it, which is probably the best thing for it. I think this match it didn't go all the way, but it did a lot to restore the mystique and the appeal of Walter after they almost single-handedly murdered it at Survivor Series.
Are you worried about the Royal Rumble?
I almost don't want him to be in it because there's clearly a big disconnect in the fact of the matter is that Walter, if booked correctly, can make a company a lot of money because just his imposing presence, the way that he wrestles, the way that he fights, all that stuff. And the fact that they had him job it out in 30 seconds to Drew McIntyre at Survivor Series suggests that the main roster doesn't see the potential in him for whatever reason. And so if they put him in the Royal Rumble and he's eliminated if he goes in as a number 3 and it's only Brock Lesnar in the ring and he gets just thrown out in less than a minute by Brock Lesnar, then this guy is not dead in the water, but he's never going to be the big star that he could be on the main roster.
If that does end up happening, can we declare that he's dead in the Walter instead?
Just damn it, Tony, stop it.
But he did pin Bobby Fish, so he's
Stop it.
Fish out of Walter.
There you go. Fish out of Walter at the end of the match.
Yeah. But this match was so good, and every single guy in this match played a big role in it. Probably the guy who played, I'd say, who had the least impact on this entire match was probably Adam Cole. I think he was the one that did the least in it, but maybe that was just by design, really, because at the end of the day, when Wolf goes out, they pretty much have to call the match on the fly because their entire structure they had with the 4-on-4 is thrown out the window, so they have to just try and improvise with the people they have left. And maybe that even made it a better match because they were just having to come up with spots and moments to fill in for the fact that one of their team members wasn't out there fighting with them. So yeah, does a huge credit for all of the guys involved. They pulled out some really good moments and fist fights and submission moves, and like Eichner doing the springboard moonsault to break up that leg lock was great, and that huge like frog splash dive to the outside was awesome as well. Yeah, it was just a great match. I think best match of the night, which is again just a huge tick box for all these guys, considering how badly this match could have been screwed up from the very first like couple of minutes.
What do you think? Depending on how bad, of course, the concussion thing is, what do you think they're gonna do to take advantage of Imperium's win? I mean, they can't really do much with Wolf if he's going to be out for a while. We do know some of the spoilers for NXT UK, so we do know like who Walter ends up fighting over the course of the next little bit. And since they recorded this ahead of time and we had advertised it ahead of time, we do know that Wolf is going to compete on NXT UK because he's already competed. But do you think that this is going to turn into any kind of real momentum for Imperium? Or is this going to be one of those things that by the time we get to take over Portland, everybody's going to have been like, all right, well, I'm not watching NXT because that was a couple weeks ago?
It's hard to really predict because I don't know how much this event is going to do to bring eyes to NXT UK. I'm sure it will do in the short term, like a few thousand people may tune in a bit more, but they might fall off just because the presentation of NXT UK isn't what they're used to, and they aren't all the Undisputed Era, and they're not all Tyler Bate and Trent Seven, so certain people aren't going to appeal as much. But hopefully it does something at the very least. I think they should use this as an opportunity to position Walter as even more dominant and powerful than had previously been suggested. Like I feel like when you have him go up against people like your Dave Mastiffs or people who are kind of at that tier just below the main event in NXT UK, he should start squashing them a bit more, like beating them in. Not just like in 30 seconds or whatever, but beating them in a few minutes and looking more dominant, because then it will feel like a bigger deal when he is actually defeated. One thing I do say coming out of this is that I want to see Walter versus Roderick Strong 1-on-1.
Oh yeah.
And frankly, I want to see Roderick Strong against everybody 1-on-1 because I think there is a good argument right now that, considering how great all these guys are, that Roderick Strong is the best bell-to-bell worker in WWE right now. There's a very, very strong argument.
Yeah, there's definitely an argument for that, and it's hard to think of a whole lot of people that would stand equal or above him. So you put Strong against pretty much anybody, and it could be a damn good match. Big fan of this. Overall, though, what do you guys think? Worlds Collide, better or worse than the TakeOver things? Just different, not necessarily better or worse. There's
worse than a TakeOver because TakeOvers have build. TakeOvers are like pay-per-views. This felt like a really cool show. So while I loved it in some portions, it's everything I don't like about wrestling right now because it was just a cool show with like no story.
That's definitely one of the big hindrances of Worlds Collide. They did not bother building this up a whole lot.
That's never really affected me too much because I go into shows hoping to see great wrestling matches, and this delivered on every single cylinder. The only match that really didn't live up to those expectations is the NXT Championship match. So other than that, it was just a really, really great show. I didn't need a lot of build because I just saw the matches and thought, well, these are all going to be great. And for the most part, they were. So I had a great time. I understand that for the most part, though, for not the majority, probably a majority of people, that wasn't going to be enough. So in Worlds Collide in this format, where it's just a load of really good matches, it's going to promise like a good night of action, like 2.5 hours of entertainment, but it's not going to draw crowds. And I think when we see what the attendance figures were for this show, it's just a sign that you need to have a story element to it, and you need to have build, and you need to have rivalries established beyond just saying, wow, these matches look great, and think that's gonna just sell the house, because that's not gonna happen.
Yeah, well, that kind of pretty much explains everything. I don't think there's really anything else that I wanted to chime in on. Anything else you guys want to talk about?
I think if we go like straight back to almost the pre-show, just a little bit, I think the Sam Roberts thing is going to become an issue soon.
Andy Shepherd needs a job, like a full time.
He
like,
does have a job. He's
So, like,
employed by
no,
NXT
WWE.
ring announcer.
like he should replace Michael Cole. I don't know if I just enjoy the accent more, but he doesn't annoy me. Like I genuinely enjoy him just being the straight man and doing the pre-shows and stuff like that. I'd like to see him move up in WWE.
I'm more worried about the Sam Roberts thing because the idea of these kickoff shows is to get people that aren't signed up to the network but might just catch the show that's being broadcast on YouTube to tune in, sign up for the network, and buy it. And I feel like having one of your like talking heads, as it were, just being booed by the audience with every single word that he says is probably not really sending the right message out there to people to, hey, this will be a fun show, tune in. Wow, we really hate this one guy who's talking over and over and over again. Just like from the first second, it's just a guy out there saying, he's not even saying anything particularly not like obnoxious, or he's not being as Sam Roberts as he usually is. And yet he's now, the crowd has been conditioned to, okay, as soon as Sam Roberts starts speaking, we try and shout over him because we hate him.
So you have two options. You remove him completely, or you make him a character on the air. I doubt they're going to do the latter, so just remove him completely.
I'm
I'd be
okay
in
with
favour
it.
of that.
I mean, I thought it was funny that he said, like, when they started booing and he was like, people from Texas are rude or whatever. I thought it was funny. I don't care. I like a little bit
I
more
think-
personality behind some of this stuff. I'm
I-
cool with them booing.
I think it's funny for people who, that's just my point to start. I think it's funny for people who are going to watch anyway. And just like, I just feel like if they want to try and appeal to other people who might not have been interested in tuning in, hearing him talk for in the first place is already a turn off for a lot of people. But I imagine that just hearing just a lot of people just booing in the crowd just because of how obnoxious he is
Well,
not going to appeal that much.
Well, the ironic thing is, truthful as it may be, they're booing what is essentially supposed to be a mirror. They're booing themselves. Because he's supposed to be this thing where WWE has steered into the skid with this idea that, well, our fans are always just looking for a reason to bitch. And that's the whole character for him. So if they're going to boo that, they're booing themselves. But all this really does is remind me that tomorrow's the Royal Rumble, and I am going to hate it. I don't like the Royal Rumble crowd anymore. I never liked the fucking noise that they do every time the clock runs down.
Oh, I'm going to be doing that. I love that, too.
Why? I sent you guys a Grizzled Young Vets promo the other day where it was like, Zach Gibson goes, they fucking think they can run the show. And no, they don't. And I love that. I want more of that. I hate the modern day crowd.
My response. Should we do that tomorrow night? Should this be a regular thing? Or it'll be like, all right, counting down to the next segment, we're going to talk about this match in 3, 2, 1.
Well, we'll see how good of a mood I'm in. If Cain Velasquez wins, I'm not in the mood for that shit.
For that matter, if Ronda Rousey wins tomorrow night, you might see some contradictory opinions from us, because I'm going to be down on it. Callum's going to be up on it. Rob, you're going to be, what, in the middle or up?
I'm gonna be right in the middle, but probably more up. Because like I said, I'll take Ronda over 90% of the roster.
We'll see, because tomorrow night is the Royal Rumble, so of course we are going to do the Royal Rumble post-show, similar to what we just did here. Hopefully I'll have a little bit more energy. I'm kind of tired tonight. Probably not, since we're going to have like 7 hours worth of shit to cover for tomorrow, so who knows. But we'll see. Hopefully you guys enjoyed Worlds Collide. We enjoyed it for the most part overall, and we got some positives out of this that are really big takeaways. Some negatives, but hey, not everything's perfect. And if you didn't watch this and you listened to our coverage, definitely check out some of these matches, because some of them were very, very good. And tell us your thoughts on anything in the comments below. Obviously, if you are on the audio-only platforms, you're on the iTunes or Google Play or whatever like that, leave us a star rating, because that's Going to help us out quite a bit. Again, as I mentioned before on YouTube, if you have not subscribed to us already, then hit that subscribe button. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Check out the merchandise shops. Check out the Patreon. Check out Fanboys. And we've got some other things going on. But before I talk about the rest of the stuff, I'm going to give these guys a chance to plug what they've got going on. Rob?
All right, main things for this weekend. The WrestleZone Daily Facebook stream. The Fast Food Royal Rumble 2 is going down tomorrow. If you follow the WrestleZone Daily, come and join the fun. It's going to be really, really dumb. But, it's Rumble Day. Let's have fun. Let's, watch 30 digital mascots fight in a ring and buy the t-shirt on TeePublic and raise the money for charity. Other than that, Fightful.com, which is where I'm reporting news right now and where I'll be reporting news for the rest of the weekend. And support them, support Fightful Select, Sean Ross Sapp, support the Fightful YouTube channel. I would be grateful. You know who else you should support? Callum Wiggins. Callum?
Oh, you don't need to support me. I'm fine on my own. But if you wanted to show some level of support, you can follow me on Twitter at Weekmeister14 and read all the weekly articles on smarkoutmoment.com, including the power rankings, which went out on Saturday, depending on if you're watching this on Christmas Day. It went back a couple of months ago, so maybe you want to go back and check the archives or whatever. But yeah, that's it from me.
And the next time you guys are going to be hearing from us after the post show for the Royal Rumble and after the hot tags is going to be the mailbag. So that is the main event for next week. Not the March. Oh my God, I'm jumping ahead already.
The March.
The Q1 January mailbag. And we won't do another one of those up until April, a little bit either before or after WrestleMania. So send in those mailbag questions before we do them on, I'm assuming probably Wednesday, maybe Thursday, kind of depends on our schedules and stuff. So yeah, think of those questions over the weekend if you haven't done that already, and send them in by, Monday or so, and then we'll answer them. That's kind of the point. But we've got the Royal Rumble post show coming up first. So yeah, tomorrow night or tonight, whenever you're listening to this, check that out. Follow us all over the place and just stay tuned. But for now, this has been another Smark Out moment, and we're being counted out.